Shalom, shalom, real motivation. It's Terrence McKinney back with another video. Today I want to talk about something that's special to me, something that I worked on for like the last year and a half. It's my debut book called Don't Let That Felony Stop You. And today I just want to talk about this book just a little bit and let y'all know what this book about. Alright, when I first made this channel was because, I made this channel because I wanted to help people like me. And when I say people like me, I mean, I wanted to be able to relate, because before I made this channel, I was on YouTube, I was reading a lot of books, and I was on there a lot just trying to better myself, mentally, trying to better myself spiritually. But it was a common thing that I was seeing when I was on YouTube and I was reading books. It was just kind of like hard to relate to a lot of the people I was seeing on YouTube. And to be honest with you, it was hard to relate to a lot of the books that I was reading on YouTube, because it seemed like some of the people in some of the instances necessarily didn't help me in my situation, or I felt like it was hard taking the message from some of the people and what they were saying. And there's a lot of great YouTube motivational speakers out there. There's a lot of great motivational books out there. But it was just always, when I was watching these videos and I was listening to these motivational speakers and I was reading their books, it always just felt like something was missing. I mean, I got a lot of the messages, but I used to always think like, man, some of my friends who've been through the same situations, they wouldn't listen to this dude, or they wouldn't even think about picking up this book, and they wouldn't pay this dude no attention, or it'd be harder for them to relate. And so when I made this channel, that was the purpose in my mind. I wanted to help people who've been through the same struggle that I've been through, and I wanted to help people who may be going through some of the stuff that I went through. And so if you go back to the first video I ever posted on this website on YouTube, it's called "Don't Let That Felony Stop You," and it's a great motivational speech. I think to this day it's probably still my highest ranking motivational speech that I ever did on this channel ever. I maybe got like 60 videos plus, and that still is the highest ranked one with the most views, and it's still to this day getting views and still getting new comments and getting views and getting new comments. And in that video, I'm just basically talking about the struggles of when you get out of prison and how you got to prepare yourself mentally, and the things that you're going to go through and the things that you're going to overcome. Because everybody know jail is supposed to be rehabilitation, but a lot of us don't be prepared mentally how tough it's going to be when we really do try to change. And they don't prepare you for that in jail. Yeah, you might go to jail for whatever crime you doing, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be punished if we do something bad out here. I mean, anytime you do something negative, it's gonna come with a negative consequence. So I'm not disputing that or saying nothing negative about the consequences. But when you go to jail, it's supposed to be rehabilitation, but it ain't too much rehabilitation going on when you're inside the jail. And a lot of us get out more lost and more confused than we was when we went in, because not only when we get out, we got a felony attached to our record, so we can't even do some of those same things that we was able to do before we got that felony. We can't work in some of the same places we used to be able to work when we do try to go get a job. We can't get accepted in certain programs because of the felony. It's like a lot of stuff that go along with that felony. Once you get that felony strapped to your name, it's like a major hindrance. And you can be young, like I was. I was a young man, you know. I mean, I was young, I was crazy, I was wild. As soon as I graduated from high school, I went to the streets. I mean, you can say even my 12th grade year, like in my latter year, it was just a blessing that I even graduated. I mean, and that was something I wanted to see through. But at the same time, I was still in the streets, and it seemed like the minute Then I ain't had nothing to do but be in the streets all day long. It was just like where everything I was doing at that time just went to a whole nother level. And I was a product of the streets, and I did every single thing in there. But I was a young man at the time, 18, 19. I mean, I had maybe a 2 or 3 year run. I think I caught my case when I was 20. I turned 21 when I was actually in prison. And so when I got out of prison, I still was pretty young, but nobody prepared me on how hard it was gonna be and the mental struggle that I went through. I mean, when I got out of prison, it was tough. I mean, I couldn't get a job. I tried to go to school, but I really couldn't get too many grants because I had a felony on my record. At that time, they told me I couldn't even vote. Like, a whole lot of rights was taken away from me. I couldn't stay here with this person because I had a felony on my record. It was hard and it was tough. I mean, every single place I tried to go get a job, and I was really trying to do the right thing when I came home from prison. Like, I was trying to work and I was trying to climb back into society. I realized that I made a mistake, but it was so tough, and that's where a lot of us we get trapped at because it's hard. It's so hard out here when you get out of prison and you trying to rehabilitate and you trying to change your life to go the straight path. Is hard because when you do get a job, they don't want to pay you nothing, or you might go on 20 to 30 interviews before you even do get a job because every time you put that on your paper, a lot of employers, they will just discard you right off the dribble. They will look at that and they won't even interview. You will never get a call back. Or when you explain that, when that comes up in the interview, you will never get a call back. Or a lot of time employers will tell you straight up, like, no, we can't hire you because you got a felony. Like, certain jobs, like at that time, a lot of friends and a lot of people I know was working at the airport, and this was like back then. This was where they was making a lot of money, but I couldn't even get clearance to work in the airport. I couldn't. I mean, I was denied before I even went in there, and it's like that a lot. And I know in some states now they done changed the law to where you don't got to put it on your application when you filling out the application, but in Ohio, I know they still ask about it, and if you leave it blank and they find out about it, you'll be on the job for a day or two and they'll fire you because it got to the point sometimes I did do that, and the jobs that I did get, I would get terminated from. I would maybe last maybe a day or two, and then they'd find out that I did have a felony, even though I was a changed person mentally and I was trying to do the right thing. At some point, I just wanted to work, and so some jobs I did say I didn't have a felony, and maybe I'll be there for a day or two, and that's even more embarrassing when they come get you at lunchtime or they call your name to the office after your first day. You don't feel like you did a good job, and you feel like you like this job and you gonna be there, and then they just tell you you ain't qualified for the job, but you done already did the job, and in your mind you can do the job, but the only thing that's not qualifying you is because you got a felony on your record. So it was tough. It was tough, and that's why a lot of us go back to the streets because there we know we can provide for ourselves. We know we can provide for our family. We know we can go get a little money, to take care of our kids or to take care of ourselves, to take care of whatever situation we in. And that's the cycle that a lot of us get stuck in because we try, and we don't have no game plan. Ain't nobody, we see everything, we see people around us come home from prison in the same scenario, and it ain't too many of us that come home from prison and just snap out of that cycle. And so that's how we wind back up in the street. We wind up getting another number. We wind up going back to prison. Then we get out, we try the same thing over. We still can't do nothing. And we wind up going back to prison again. And that's why a lot of us get multiple numbers because it's so tough out here. And, society kind of punishing you at the same time, because if you go to jail and you do your time, that should, you get out, and sometimes a lot of us is just like drug dealers or drug cases or stuff like that. That shouldn't stop you from getting a job. And so it's like a repeated cycle that we get stuck in. And so over the last couple of years, you know, I've been steadily. Since I got home from prison, it's been a struggle, and I went through a lot, and I had to overcome a lot, and over the last couple of years, I've been seeing people like because I did do a change, but it was hard, like you know, and I've been seeing people over the years, and I've been telling people, you know, the steps that I took to make it, and I actually what gave me the inspiration to write the book and to make this channel was because I was seeing people out in the streets, and people literally was coming to me like once they realized because when people see me, I'm doing good. You know, I'm doing even better, or at the same point. To me, I'm doing better because everything is legal, and I can sleep with a clear conscience at night on how I get my money. But I'm doing just as well as I was doing when I was, you know, out there in the streets doing everything under the sun to get the money. Now I'm getting it legally, and I can sleep with an easy conscience. But a lot of my friends and a lot of people who was coming home from jail, they came to me for advice, and I gave them that same advice. And a lot of people was telling me like, man, you got a good blueprint, man. I'm trying to do everything you do it, man. You give me inspiration, man. You give me motivation, man, because I look and see where you came from and how you changed your life, and I know that I can do the same thing. And constantly over the years, I done had plenty of friends that I done changed and turned away from the streets, and I done gave them the game, and I done talked to them, and I done gave them pointers, and I done almost steer their direction into the some of the same ways that I went through, and I done helped them prevent a lot of mistakes because when I first got out of jail, it was an up and down roller coaster. It just wasn't no, you know, I got out of jail and I got a job and I went to the top. No, it wasn't like that. So that made me make this channel, and that made me want to write this book because I wanted to explain everything I went through and the mindset you gotta have, you know, the drive you gotta have, the hustle you gotta have, you know, the motivation you gotta work up each day you wake up with. You know, you can't let that felony stop you, and if you want to change, it's gonna have to start with you. And so that's why I wrote this book. And this book is the blueprint. It's not just for people who've been in trouble. This book right here is the blueprint for anybody out there who's trying to change their mindset. And this book right here, anybody gonna be able to relate to. It ain't just like you picking up a book and, you know, some 80-year-old white guy wrote the book, and no disrespect, or, you know, or some 80-year-old black guy who can't, you know, relate to today's times, today's struggle, and some of the stuff that we gotta overcome. It's not none of that. You know, it's me. It's my blood, sweat, and tears on everything I had to do to overcome these obstacles. And this book is 10 chapters, and I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna give y'all the titles of the chapters. Chapter 1 is rehabilitation. You know, because real rehabilitation is start with you. Yeah, it ain't gonna ever happen until we actually make up the decision in our own minds that we actually do want to change. A lot of us say we want to change, but a lot of us ain't gonna stick with change. And if you can't stick with change, then you don't really want to change. Chapter 2 is street cred versus credit. Because people in my situation and in my world, when we growing up, we talked about street cred. We don't know nothing about credit. I didn't even know anything about credit or even start paying attention to credit until I got in my 30s. And I'm not the only one like that. I got a lot of friends and I got a lot of family in our communities and you want to say the inner city communities. Credit is just not something that we taught about. We taught about street credit. And the thing about street credit is it's fake. It's a mirage. It don't exist. It's something that means nothing at the end of the day because you can't do it absolutely nothing with it. Number 3 is image and identity, and that's a big chapter for me because a lot of us deal with, you know, identity crisis and deal with our image. I was everything under the sun you could think of, and it was all because of I always thought what I wanted to be wasn't necessarily what I wanted to be. I wanted to be everything society told me I was. And your identity until you happy within yourself, and you can look in the mirror and be happy with the person you see, you got an identity crisis. Because I mean, I was everything from under the sun. I was when I was growing up, I was smart. I was a good student, but I felt like that wasn't good enough. I was a gangster. I was a thug. I knew that wasn't good enough. I turned into a rapper, and I was a thousand things. But I was never like I am now, to where I'm content with whatever I see. And I used to do everything in the world to mask, who I was. I cared about what people thought about me. I Now I don't care. You know what I'm saying? As long as I'm living righteously and I'm doing the right self to feed my spirit, I'm happy with the man I see every day. So that's a big chapter. Chapter 4 is your drive, your hustle. Because at the end of the day, I mean, when you is trying to rehabilitate and you is trying to recover for something negative you're gonna have to go twice as hard. And a lot of people don't know that. You're gonna have to work harder than the regular person, because you don't put yourself behind an 8 ball. So you're not gonna have it as easy as somebody with a nice clean record. You're gonna have to prove yourself. And that's something that a lot of us don't know. Number 5, motivation. Uh a lot of times we use everything in the world for motivation. We'll use our family, we'll use our kids. We can use somebody who just passed away as our motivation. We use a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, if we ever want to do something and we ever want to get something accomplished, the motivation got to start with us. It got to start with you. It got to be the man in the mirror. You got to be self motivated, and you know what I'm saying? Because ain't nothing gonna come to you unless you really want it. Once you make that decision to get motivated for yourself, then that's when everything gonna happen. I mean, and I was the same way. I use tons of things to stay motivated, but those things that I used to stay motivated, that was only short term. So at the end of the day, motivation got to start with you. Chapter 6, faith. And faith is a big thing, I mean, and I break down faith, and I just not talk about my spiritual faith. I talk about the faith that I had. I had the trust of the people. I mean, because at one point in my life, I trusted everybody, and then once I went to prison and I seen that a lot of people stabbed me in the back, and a lot of people weren't dealing with me with the same way I was dealing with them, I lost faith in everybody. And so I had to regain that trust, and I just had to know that at the end of the day, people going to be people. But I had to put, some faith and some trust in other people. I mean, now all my faith is in the Most High, you know what I'm saying, and the Holy One. I put all my faith in Him now, but you do got, at some point in your life, you do got to trust people, and you can't have walls up. Because if you got walls up and you're scared to take a chance, then you're never going to get nowhere. Number 7, science. Number 7 is science. That's another good chapter. That's another one of my favorite chapters, because you got to pay attention to what's going on around you. You got to be able to see the writing on the wall. When you driving every day and you pull up to a stop sign, you stop. That's a sign. When the light turn green, you go. That's a sign. When you see yield, then you slow down and you proceed with caution. That's a sign. But we got to pay attention to the signs in our life. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times, everything that's going to happen to us is right there, and we getting warnings, and we getting, premonitions, and we seeing stuff before it happens, and we not paying attention to it. So you got to pay attention to the signs that's happening in your own life, because those signs can actually lead you to the success, or it can lead you to derail and go off the deep end and be in another bad situation. Number 8 is accountability. I mean, and that's another big chapter, because at the end of the day, you got to know everything start with you. And you got to be accountable for your own actions. And that was something that, I felt like I always had, because the minute I went to prison, I knew, what I'm saying, I was the reason why I went to prison, and it was hard sometimes, when I got out of prison, and I wasn't getting jobs, but I knew I was the reason why, you know, and I knew that it was only because of me. And a lot of us sometimes we get stuck that we want to blame other people for our certain situations that we in. This is a problem I see still to this day, where a lot of people, they get stuck and they can't get over the rut because they older now and they blaming their parents for something. You know, they blaming their family members for something. They blaming one incident for how their life changed. And we can't do that. You know, we got to be accountable for all our actions. We can't get a power to somebody else or something else over our life. You got to be accountable. You got to man up, and you got to be able to look in the mirror. Number 9 is goals, plans. And that's something that I had to learn. Like, you know, on my road to recovery, on my way climbing back up the ladder, that's something I had to realize. And first it started off, you know, once I realized that I actually was playing it, it was by accident. I mean, it was maybe like 10 to 12 years ago. Like, you know, I remember at the beginning of the year, I would write down some goals and some plans and everything else, and I would write them down. And then, you know, I might look at them 2 months later, 3 months later, and then, but I knew about like 2 or 3 years after doing that, I would look down my goals and my list and my plans, and I will be done hit all them goals, and I will be done executed all my plans just by sitting down at the beginning of the year and writing it down. And then that's when I got more serious with my goals and plans, and I started really breaking it down and start, you know, planning out everything and set my goals for a lot of things, because I realized once I did put it down on paper, it did make me think about it more, and it did make me work towards it subconsciously, even when I wasn't thinking about it, just because I sat down. And a lot of us don't have goals. We don't have plans. We want to do a lot of stuff, but we don't know how to plan it out, or we don't know how to go for it. We don't know how to strive for it. We don't know how to stick to it. So we got to start with goals and plans. You can't get nowhere or unless you got one or the other, a goal or a plan. And number 10, the last chapter in this book is called Tunnel Vision and Patience, because I think that's another important chapter. When you got tunnel vision, you got to pay attention to what's going on in your life. And a lot of times we care too much about what's going on in other people's life, or we care too much about keeping up with other people, or we care too much about what somebody else got to say or what somebody else doing. And a lot of times we got to have tunnel vision. And I mean, when it comes to ourselves and our current situation, we got to lock in and focus on what we work towards. We can't be worried about what nobody else doing, and we can't be worried about what nobody else saying. And we got to be patient with it, because nothing happen overnight. I mean, nothing happened overnight. I mean, don't nobody wake up and become millionaires. Don't nobody wake up and become successful. I mean, only time you see overnight, you know, success is like in the music industry. But then again, it might not be overnight success. It might be just overnight success to you, because you might have just heard of that person when they come out with that one big song and they seem like they come out of nowhere. But a lot of time, them artists be working behind the scenes for 10 to 20 years. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be patient. And you can't expect results overnight. You know, that's the same way where I just had to tell myself about writing this book, you know, because the book been published for about 3 weeks now. You know, I maybe got 150 copies printed up so far, and I may sold like 50, and I was being down on myself for real about 3 days ago, because I expected the book to sell a whole lot of books. I expected the whole 150 to be gone in the first day or two, but that's unrealistic thinking, and I had to realize, you know, I mean, just like everything else, it takes time sometimes. So with that being said, I'm gonna leave the link to this book right under this video. You can go to my website, TerrenceMcKinneyJr.com, and you can buy this book. I'm shipping it everywhere. You know, I mean, as long as you allow having shipping in whatever country you in. So I'm shipping it to the United States, you know, overseas, all 7 continents. I mean, if you are Antarctica, I'm sending the book to Antarctica. So I appreciate anybody who want to support this book, because this book is a great book. And like I said, it's not just a book just if you've been in trouble or if you're a felon or something like that, or you're looking to change. It's a great read overall, and it'll give you understanding and depth to whatever you're doing. I guarantee if you read this book, you're going to pick up one or two habits to incorporate every single day in your life. So go to my website, again, TerrenceMcCuneyJr.com, and get your copy of the book. Don't let that felony stop you. Thank you, Real Motivation. Shalom.